Welcome to Childhood Trash, a dumpster dive into our childhood nostalgia where we re-examine some of the most influential media from our youth in order to answer the question, tragic or nostalgic. I'm your host, Pia LaPlaca, joined by my co-host,
Maggie Keating.
Hi, Maggie.
Hi.
How are you feeling today?
I'm a little sick, but it's okay.
Yeah.
We move. I've
You're
had
recovering.
the flu. I'm recovering. Forgive my cough.
Yeah.
I can't
You
make
should-
it go away. I'm
I
really
was going to
trying.
say you should try not to cough.
I will try not to cough, but it's...
What are we doing today, Maggie?
We have a very special episode, a very special guest today.
Yes.
We're interviewing Mark Gunn, the co-writer of Journey to the Mysterious Island.
All right.
Yeah.
So, without further ado,
Let's
get into it.
Yeah.
So, welcome, Mark, to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
We have lots of fun questions for you. So, Maggie, you can start
Yeah,
us
sure.
off.
Yeah, so...
First of all, can I start? First of all, I want to say I'm a fan of your podcast.
Thank you.
I listen to a lot of them. I didn't even know they were on YouTube,
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but now I know.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of them on Spotify. You guys do a great job.
Thanks.
Thank
And
you.
Pia, I am one of the bitches who wrote Journey to the Mysterious Island. To quote you.
You would have
Oh,
said something
goodness.
like that.
Oh,
You did say that.
I did.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah. that's just
Well,
how I show respect.
but we love-
Who can't see this? I'm smiling. I'm not really. I thought
Yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you didn't listen to the episode, we loved the movies. So.
Yeah. Yeah. It was all in good fun.
All in good fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we can just start with, like, how did you start writing? And, like, have you known you always wanted to be a screenwriter and all of your origin story stuff?
I did not know I wanted to be a screenwriter. I started writing in college with Mr. Dan Keating. I started was mostly an actor but also loved theater and had a deep love for movies starting in high school. One of my cousins and I were joking the other day that we remember when there was a movie called The Sicilian that was written by the same author as The Godfather. And we loved The Godfather so much that we skipped school one day in high school to go see the opening day of The Sicilian. And I was 16 and he was 15. And, but we loved it. It was, the movie was terrible, but when we had no taste. So when we came out of the movie, we were like, oh my God, that might've been better than The Godfather. It's a terrible movie. But I have loved movies for a long time. And then I got to college and watched a lot of movies, took a lot of film classes and did theater and was just and was an English theater double major and was always inclined towards the arts, the writing arts. And while I was there, I should say my cousin Brian and I, who is the other bitch who wrote this movie, we did sketch comedy in college. We had all along with my cousin Beth and some other friends. We had a sketch comedy group in college. And so when I graduated, I didn't know what to do with my life and acted a little bit and then decided to go to apply to film schools. And I applied to and got into USC for grad school. And that moved me to LA. I lasted 1 year. It was a 3-year MFA program. It was not for me. Although in retrospect, maybe I should have stayed, but it was for directing. It wasn't for writing. It was for direct. It wasn't for me. And I left and started getting jobs as, just like very, very, very low level jobs as what's called a script coordinator, which sounds like it's writing adjacent, but it's really not. It really was just making copies and distributing copies of the script. For game shows. This wasn't on movies or TV. This was on scripted game shows. And so I would make copies of scripts, collate them, color coordinate them, hand them out to the producers. But while I was doing that, I also made a short film using the facilities at USC, pretending I still went there, which I didn't. And but I had lots of friends who still went there and they helped me make this short film. And I made the short film using the facilities and my friends and the equipment. And that short film, I remember asking some of the producers on my stupid game show to come to a screening of it at USC. And they showed up, which was very nice of them and a huge favor to me and very nice. I didn't think much of it. And then the game show ended, as shows do, and they went and moved to MTV, which at that time was a happening, vibrant, cool place to work. And they called me and they said, we remember your short film. We thought it was really funny. Come work for us. And so I started working at MTV, and at MTV, I had the greatest job I'll ever have, which was I was able to come up with any idea I wanted, and I go pitch it to my bosses. And sometimes they say no, but usually they'd say, how much money do you need to go make a pilot? And I'd be like, nah, $400,000. They'd be like, okay, see you in 3 months. And I would go off and get a crew. And these were not like scripted shows. These were like music video adjacent shows. And so I go get a crew and I'd make a pilot and turn it in, and they'd be like, the head of the network would be like, it's a little bit too much like something else we have, but what else do you have? And I go make another one. I did that for a couple years, and one of them was a thing that I did that was a comedy thing, and the head of the network called me and said, we're not going to do it, but that was really good. So come up with something else. And at that time, MTV was starting to make movies to air on MTV. And that's what I really want to do is movies. And I had this idea for a movie that was basically a mock documentary about a boy band. This is in the boy band.
I've heard of this.
Love that.
Yeah. My dad has shown me clips of this. Yeah.
This is in the
NSYNC Backstreet Boys heyday.
Yeah.
Like around 2000. And so Brian, my cousin, he had moved to LA by then. We moved to LA around the same time. And we hadn't been writing together, but we thought, I have this idea. Let's go. I think I can get us a pitch meeting with the woman who runs this department at MTV. And so we fleshed out a pitch, and I was able to say to this woman who think had no interest in hearing my idea, but I said, look, your boss, the head of the network, called me and said to come up with another idea. He really likes my stuff. So you should at least hear me pitch this. So she's like, okay. So Brian and I went in and pitched it to her and made her laugh. And she bought it and hired us to write it for almost no money. And we wrote it and we turned in the script, and she said, we're going to make it. This is going to be our first MTV movie. And it was called Together, with the number 2 together. And it was before that even they made it, and before it even aired, the head of the network called me and said, we think this is going to be a big hit. We want to turn it into a TV series. And it's your and Brian's show. It's your show. And so we were pretty young to have our own show. So we then did 2 seasons of that TV show, and that got us an agent, and that got us off and running. From then on, once you get an agent, it's sort of it doesn't mean it's smooth sailing by any means, but it gives you entree into a whole nother level of projects where you're not just, people are calling you instead of just like begging people to look at your stuff.
That's kind of the goal for us too. We're both writing students. So.
I know you are.
Yes.
I know you are.
I listen to the podcast. I know everything about you guys.
He's a fan. I can see your dog in the back. It's just really cute.
Ignore that dog. Ignore that dog.
I could never ignore a dog in her life. So you mentioned you obviously work a lot with your cousin. What is it like to kind of work with your family?
Yeah, I feel like I would kill Lila if I had to work with her that much.
Yeah.
Well, he's not my brother. Maybe that's the difference.
Cousin, right?
We're cousins. But we do work, it's been 20 years now, and we spend, like, after we finish here, I'll go into the office and we'll sit together all day working on a thing we're working on. And, I love him, and I have for a long time, and we get along really, really well. But we don't get along every second of every day, but we have so much in common. We grew up together, but we don't, like, he's not, like, I have brothers. I could probably work with them too, actually. It takes, like with any friendship, once you develop your rhythm and you start to get to know each other's rhythms, you can fall into a nice, comfortable working relationship. And, it's been a long time. We've been doing it for a long time, and it's, I'm not sure I could do it with anyone else, actually. But I also know that I don't think I could do it alone. That we've come to rely on, those are the muscles we've developed, is the collaborating with each other. And so when I have ideas, he's my testing board and I'm his testing board. And I don't know what I would do if I didn't have a sounding board, I should say. We've developed a pretty good working relationship together.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been doing the podcast now for a year.
Over a year.
And like, you just have to learn how to work with other
together.
people like that.
Yeah.
And she has to remind me to do stuff all the time, and I'm very grateful. And it's it's all that kind of stuff, which is really cool. You
guys finish each other's sentences and you laugh at each other's jokes, and that's a good, you can't force that. That's something that either happens or it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And our voices also sound very similar.
Yeah, we're very much like the same person a
Yes.
little bit.
That's
so
how
that
we
does
started
help.
doing this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did you guys meet at school?
Yeah.
And in my first
Literature class?
well, technically your first class
Here, yeah.
but my first literature college class. So
Yeah.
we just
we bonded over hating that class.
we had a bad professor
good.
Yeah.
and like a project that we had to work on together.
Yes.
So then we just became really, really good friends. So
That's our origin
that's
story.
our origin story.
I love it. I love it.
So how did you get involved with Journey 2? Because they had already made the first one before you
Yeah.
and you didn't write that and you didn't really work on that. So
No, so we got a call from our agent saying someone wants to make a sequel to Journey to the Center of the Earth, and my first response was, to what? Like I didn't even know. I'm not even sure I knew that movie existed. I certainly hadn't seen it.
I do.
I know you did. So we went and watched it and thought it was really fun. I heard your guys' podcast on that, and I agree with it's like a fun movie, and it had that great idea at the center of it, which was that the Jules Verne book was actually kind of a map. That it wasn't science fiction, it was true. It was science. And that was just a great fun concept. And I do not know why the writers of the first one didn't write the second one. I don't know that. But when we came on to the second one, there was already a script by another writer who apparently wrote a spec script. You guys know what a spec script is. It's a script that's written without, you just write it on your own and then hope that someone buys it. It wasn't based on anything. About, I think it was a father and son going to a weird island. But it wasn't based on Mysterious Island. It wasn't a sequel to Journey to the Center of the Earth. And that writer, so the studio bought that script, decided to have him turn it into a sequel to Journey to the Center of the Earth, which at that time was going to star Brendan Fraser. It was going to be Brendan Fraser and Josh Hutcherson. We never read that script. They never even showed it to us. They said, this happens a lot. They said, the studio said, don't even read that. That's just going to screw you up. Here's the basic thing we want. We basically want to use Mysterious Island and those two characters. The rest is up to you guys. So then we went off and came up with a way to do a sequel to Journey to the Center of the Earth, a way to do Journey to the Mysterious Island with Brendan Fraser and Josh. And we wrote that, and people were excited about it, and they wanted to make it. And then for reasons I can't go into online, Brennan left the project, and we thought it was dead. We thought that, well, that's the end of it. I mean, they're not going to make it now. They just lost their star. And then we get a call about 2 weeks later and said, we think Dwayne Johnson's going to do it. We're like, oh, well, back on. Here we go. So, and also at that time, I think for a while there, Michael Douglas was going to play the grandfather. But of course, we had to totally rewrite it, right? Because it was no longer his uncle with whom he had gone on this other adventure. It was someone else. And I heard you guys talking in the podcast about how there's this weird thing with their family that all the male father figures keep abandoning them, which is totally true. but we didn't write it that way. We write it was going to be, obviously in the first one, the dad is gone. He's dead. So it was an uncle nephew story, that's what we wrote for the second one. There was going to be an uncle nephew, a continuation of that story. But then we lost Brendan, so we had to reconceive it. So that was our idea, was we'll make it Josh's stepfather, and we'll give them real tension between each other at the beginning, because that'll give us a story arc, right? Is that it's a very simple story arc, but they have conflict. They don't like each other at the beginning. And then by the end, they do. Once we got Dwayne, things went really quickly, and we had to do very quick rewrites to make it not only his uncle, but to give Dwayne, whose character is not a scientist, the ability to talk in sort of scientific terms. I mean, you notice he talks in like scientific terms about the island collapsing and stuff, which, like, when it was Brendan Fraser's character, he was like a scientist, so he could say that and it made sense. But it's like Dwayne's character, like, he's not going to be a scientist. So what could he be where saying that information made some basic sense? So we made him a contractor, like a construction guy. And it kind of makes sense. It's not great or anything, but Dwayne was game for it. And so he did that. And then we got Vanessa, your pal. And then we got, and then Michael Douglas couldn't do it. So it became Michael Caine. and
Cool. Yeah.
off to the races. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I just want to take like a detour while we're talking about the writing of the script.
I have another detour I want to take.
To ask you about your perspective on my dad telling me that I came up with the gold volcano idea, which is not true. And I've known it's not true.
Well, first of all, I want to say you did come up with that idea just because I want you to feel. I kind of remember that, him telling me that he told you that. I do not, but I wish I could remember, because I cannot say definitively that that was not your idea, because I don't think it was in any of the books, and I don't remember where it came from.
I really don't think
I'll later today, but I don't remember where it came from. So there's a possibility it was your idea. So I want you to feel good that that was your idea. But the when they fly on giant bees, that was my daughter's idea.
Oh, that's so sweet.
We were talking about different ideas for the movie, and I said they have to get from like point A to point B. How could they get there? And she said maybe they fly on giant bees. And she was like 6. And so I'm like, that's in the movie. And then it was cool because later we'd see billboards in like around LA and even in Times Square of Dwayne Johnson, Josh Hutcherson riding on giant bees. I could say that was your idea right there. That was your idea. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, and then my son, who is 2 years younger, had an idea that Josh Hutcherson was peeing on the beach and a giant, what do you call them, like jellyfish emerged from the sand because it was being peed on and chased him. And I had to explain to him we couldn't have Josh Hutcherson peeing in the movie. So that was not gonna be in the movie, unfortunately.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay, so what was your detour?
Oh, my detour? So since you had to do this rewrite of the script, we were wondering when we were watching the movie is what happened to Brendan Fraser's character. Like, where did he go?
Yeah, so
we knew we didn't want to kill him off because Josh's character had already gone through enough death in his life, and it's just too heavy. We actually wrote a sequence for the beginning of the movie where Josh calls Brendan Fraser, their character calls his character, and he was off seeking his advice or help, and we would see Brendan Fraser off on this other adventure. He was in the Arctic being chased by woolly mammoths, I think, or something like that. And it was just a way of explaining, I'm sorry, it was just one scene, but it was him basically saying, I can't be there because I'm busy. I'm a little busy right now. As he was like hanging from an ice cliff being chased by woolly mammoths, talking to the phone, being like, I'm a little busy. But it was way too expensive a scene, and so it didn't happen. And so then we replaced it with nothing. Like, I don't even think we mentioned that his character exists, right?
Yeah, I didn't remember like there being an explanation, and that's why like we talked about it.
Yeah, I feel like I filled in the gaps that he was like off doing something else. Like I for some reason I had that in my head.
Yeah.
There might be. I don't remember. I haven't seen that movie in a long time. There might be a line in there, maybe, but you guys have seen it recently, so you would remember a line explaining him. But I think we just got rid of his whole existence from that movie. He was just like didn't exist.
Yeah. So how was it like adapting a book into a movie? That's like something that we are very interested in because we watch like a lot of the Disney Channel, like Nickelodeon movies are books originally, but like people don't know that. So what was that process like? It was also with like classic novels too.
I'll start here with I have never read that book. I've never read The Mysterious Novel. It's probably not exactly a good example of how to adapt a book. I don't think Brian has read it either. What we did was it's a huge book and it's dense and it's like, and we already had a script. We already had a story. So we weren't really, it's not an adaptation of the book. The book is a source of ideas for the movie. It's not that story is not the story, but there are a lot of details in the movie that come from The Mysterious Island by Jules Verne. And that's because that's just from flipping through it, from reading the Wikipedia page, just finding different ideas that seem cool that we could use for different points in the movie. Because again, we really like that idea that the Mysterious Island served as sort of a map for what this island was. But I think it was our idea to also include those other books, Treasure Island and Gulliver's Travels and stuff, because we knew we wanted to have tiny animals, and we knew that Gulliver's Travels had the Lilliputians, they had stuff like that. So we're like, well, that's not in Mysterious Island, but it would be fun if that was it. Let's expand the universe of this of this book and of this movie to beyond just Jules Verne and include other books, because why not? And we had I'm pretty sure it was our idea to have the maps sort of join together and form a map of Mysterious Island, and that's how they found it and stuff. And
We
so
thought
it wasn't really an adaptation. We've adapted other books. I mean, where we actually had to adapt the book. And that is usually a process of figuring out what to cut. Novels have way too much story and information generally, and scenes, frankly, for a movie or a TV episode or even a series. So it's translating that book into your own sort of vision for what the story is. This was a different case. This was not that. This was just, the book was just a source of ideas. We weren't adapting it really. And that's what I would say about adaptation is you have to translate it into your own story.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I had something to say, but I forgot.
Okay, I have something to say.
Yeah.
You want me to?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a little like musical interlude in Journey 2, where The Rock plays the ukulele. And it's like, it's so weird and perfect in that movie. I just wanted to know like where that came from, like if it was meant to be like a sort of jokey song, or like you found out The Rock could actually sing and you were like, this is perfect.
It's a good story, I think. So we wrote a scene where it was Dwayne and Josh and Michael Caine sang that song together. And it was a scene of the three of them were at that point not really getting along. And I can't remember who had the ukulele and started the song, but it was one of the three of them. And then the other one jumped in, and then the third one jumped in, and it was a bonding scene. It was the three of them for the first time in the movie coming together through singing a song. And I almost always like it in movies when people sing songs. I just think it's like, why not? It's like, it's a silly movie. You can have people like start singing songs, and I like music, and Brian does too. And so we wrote a song that the three of them sang. And when Dwayne came on board, he read that scene and said, no, I'm going to sing that song. And we said, but it's a key like character thing about these three characters coming together. And he said, I'm going to sing it. So it was then changed into a song that he just sang, which doesn't totally do the same thing as it did in our original script of the three of them coming together, but it's pretty close. And Dwayne is the star of the movie. And that's one of Dwayne's strengths as an actor is he knows who he is. He knows what his audience wants. He knows his brand. And that was still fairly early in his career, but even then he had a good sense of what people wanted from him. And so it became a song where it became a scene of just him singing a song. And he's got a good voice. He's got a delightful voice.
I was going to say, how does it feel to have done the precursor to Moana and like all
this is the prequel?
Yeah. And like
I'm guessing more. He loves singing, and I get the feeling he's looking for an excuse to sing in any movie he does. We wrote the sequel to this, Journey 3, and I'm pretty sure I'm sure we'll talk about that. We gave him a song in that too.
We missed so much. We could have had it all.
You guys are gonna write that eventually.
Yeah. No, we've talked. No. If you listen to the episode, we have a lot of ideas.
We figured it out.
I just also wanted to talk about the moment where he is like the berry throwing and then he's
peck popping.
Yeah.
That was Dwayne's idea. So Dwayne called us one day and had that idea. We're like, what? And he's like, no, just trust me. Put it in the script. Just write the scene, and I'm gonna do it, and you'll see. And like, all right, man. And he was right. It totally. I mean, it's like as you called it, iconic. It's like this iconic, funny, weird scene. And I think I don't know what the origin of the idea was. What it was for him. I'm sure it had to do with him being able to pop his pecs, but also there was the 3D element to it because that movie's in 3D, and back then 3D was like the big thing. And so the movie, when we were writing it and when they were making it, looking for any excuse to use stuff coming at the camera. And so that was an opportunity to do that. And I don't know that that's part of why he came up with the idea, but that's how that scene works basically is. And, Josh Hutcherson sort of looks at the camera at one point in that scene, and it's funny. It was totally his idea. We wrote it, but it was based on his idea.
That's very funny.
Yeah, I think they must have used it a lot in like the trailer or something because because I feel like I've seen it so many times and I've really only seen this movie once.
Yeah. So you said you hadn't really seen Journey 2. in a while.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Correct.
But if you like remember, like, what did you think of it when you first saw it? And like some people we've talked to don't really like to watch their own work. Like, what's your philosophy on all of that?
That one I don't mind watching. I think it's totally fun. I think it achieved what it set out to achieve, which was just be some sort of dumb fun. Um, or silly fun. I shouldn't say dumb, but silly fun. I don't mind that one. I mean, I saw Brian and I saw a very early version of it that was rough. It was rough. And that happens on every thing we've ever worked on, which is we'll go in and see an early version of it and be like, "Oh my God. Oh my God, this is a disaster." But it's because we haven't been in the editing room making it, and the people who have, they know where it's going. They understand where it's going. They're just showing us where it is now. And sure enough, I mean, but there are lines I wish we could have written better. There are jokes I wish we could punch up. There's lots of things I'd change about it, but overall I think that movie's really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that was sort of our takeaway too.
I have another question. I was thinking about the romance in this movie, and I was wondering if you kind of felt like it was like something you had to put in because it's like a teen movie and it's like hard to make a teen movie without a romance, or if it was just like something that came naturally from like boy plus girl equals romance.
Well, there's no real the romance in the first one was Brendan Fraser and that other woman.
The Mountain Guide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard you guys say in the podcast that she asked for too much money or something. I'm not sure that that character was never part of the sequel, as far as I know.
That character was never going
I'm spreading lies, I guess. My bad.
You may have heard that, I don't know, from your dad or something, who's a notorious liar. But no, he's not. We felt like it was be more fun to give Josh a romantic interest. Well, first of all, you couldn't do it with Dwayne because Dwayne, that's the starting. He's not going to cheat on Josh's mom on the island with Josh. So it couldn't be him. So, and it just felt like it felt good to have a romance. I will tell you, in real life, Josh was in love with Vanessa Hudgens on that movie from the beginning, like just smitten with her. And by the end of the shoot, they were dating.
Wow.
It was very
I
sweet.
didn't know that. I do know that.
Well, now the whole world knows because I just told.
Now we know. I didn't know that. That's really funny.
But they were by the end of the shoot, they were dating, and it was really cute. It was really cute to see.
And then he went off to do the Hunger Games right after that too. So he had the whole like, that's pretty crazy. Oh,
yeah, it's weird because their careers were sort of, his was about to like really take off, and hers was sort of, ebbing a little bit after High School Musical, and but they met at the right time, and I think they really had a fun time together on that movie and afterwards for a while.
Oh,
that's so sweet.
That is very sweet.
I'll go for that.
We wanted to talk a little bit about the writer's strike because my dad has told me that you were super involved with the one.
2000.
Yes.
Yeah. I was on the board of directors of the Writers Guild for that one. And that was that was 100 days. It was really tough. The Writers Guild membership was not super unified on that one. We made some progress and we got some good things. We had to strike, I think, to get them. So it was probably at the end of the day, worth it, but difficult. I think reasonable people can disagree about whether or not it was worth it, but I think it was. The most recent one, I was not on the board. I was not involved, at least publicly. And that was much long. This one was much longer, obviously. And then the actors went on strike too. And this one was the membership of the Writers Guild was much more unified this time.
Yeah.
And I think we got some great stuff. We didn't get everything. It was painful for a lot of people. Frankly, the movie and TV business are still suffering some aftershocks from that. I mean, if you notice, like how many movies come out every weekend? Like no movies are coming out. Like there's very few movies in theaters. And that's partly the strike. That's partly cost cutting on the parts of studios, which is also partly kind of the strike. But that's going to be true for the next, 6 to 12 months. Is you'll see there just won't be as many movies as there used to be, like per weekend in theaters. Like last weekend the big movie was like Civil War or something, like which barely made any money. Like it's just like there's no movies, which is really a bummer.
Yeah, and like a
No,
lot
by
of
the way, I don't totally blame the strike for that, but that there was no production for
yeah, a
For
lot
like
of
months,
TV
so
shows have been getting like pushed back. I know even like Dune was supposed to come out last year and then came out recently because of it. So it's like
I think Dune would have been nominated for a lot of Oscars, but would
yeah,
not have won because Oppenheimer was going to win. So like Dune wasn't going to beat Oppenheimer. Barbie and Dune were the same studio, so they would have been going against each other. But
I don't know if have you ever been to like award shows like a award show like that before?
I've been to Writers Guild Awards.
Yeah.
That's it. I've never been to the Oscars. I have friends who have been, and I think it's unless you're nominated, it's not super fun. You get to see like famous people and stuff all dressed up, which is cool, but you're not going to be hanging out with them very much. And
That's true.
so
Yeah. That
it's
makes
just like going to the taping of a TV show. Like
Yeah.
there's all those commercial breaks where nothing's happening, and um, it's a TV show basically. So I've heard.
yeah.
Once I'm nominated for an Oscar, what it's like.
Yeah. Yeah. And we
Yeah.
can all yeah.
We'll find out once we're there.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
But you guys will know. You'll know before I will.
Okay, so we wanted to also touch on your horror movie Brightburn because that's like quite the pivot from Journey 2, and kind of what that was like moving into that direction, that horror space.
Yeah.
That's a great question. So Brian and I, we like horror movies, and Brian one day came into our office and said, he said, I was thinking about this today. I was thinking about Superman, and Ma and Pa Kent find a baby in their backyard in a meteor. And what did they do? They decide to not tell anyone and raise it as their son. And fortunately, that kid turned out to be Superman. But what if he didn't? Like, they don't know what that kid's going to turn out to be. And then we thought that touched on just basic fears that a lot of parents have when you have a kid is like, I don't know. I have this child who I love and care about, but I have no idea what this child is going to become. And we thought, well, that's a horror movie. Like that child, they find a baby in the backyard and they decide to raise it as their son and they love it dearly. And then that son turns out to be something truly horrible. And what do you do as a parent? So we wrote it. So we thought that was a fun idea and we wrote it. And then one day I was talking to this friend of mine who's a director at my cousin James's. He was having a barbecue and I told him about that script and he said, can I read it? And he read it. And then he showed it to my cousin James Gunn and James read it and said, let's go make it. So we all went off and made that movie, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, and the cast is pretty cool too. It's Elizabeth Banks.
yep.
Blanking on the others right now.
David Denman from The Office.
Yeah.
Is that-
Yes. I remember we have the little like pop Funko figure of
Oh, you do?
in my house. Yeah.
Brightburn?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Here's what's interesting, Pia, is which I think you were getting at with the pivot is we had never done horror before that. Like that we were not horror writers. We were for the first chunk of our career, we were just comedy writers. And then we got Journey 2 and we sort of became action adventure writers. And after that opened doors to us. We wrote a lot of just like straight action, just like action movies. Then we were in this pocket of doing action and action comedy, action adventure. And we had this idea for a horror movie. And, there's no rules about what you can and can't write. You write what you're passionate about. And we wrote it and so now we're in this weird position where we will get calls from our agents sometimes about writing horror movies. We'll get calls about writing comedies. We'll get calls about writing straight action movies. We'll get calls about writing big action adventure movies. We'll get calls about writing sci-fi movies, which is good because I have writer friends who are just like, one is the guy who's one of the writers on Dune, and he is just a sci-fi guy. That's when you want hardcore sci-fi, you call this guy. That's what he does. He does basically one thing, which is sci-fi. And he's great at it. And so, we, for better or worse, are not just the guys you go to for that one thing. We do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But we like a lot of different things. So I'm glad.
Yeah. And then like, do you have any like advice, I guess, for young writers trying to get into the business? I know like me and Pierre are more interested in like literary writing, but I have we go to a film school obviously, so we have a lot of like people that are trying to break into the movie business, I guess.
Well, I would say a couple things. One is write a lot and finish your scripts. Don't do a draft and then stop, or half a draft and stop. uh, finish your work. Finish your work. Two is, I hate to say it, but you probably got to move to LA if you want to write TV or movies. Um, there are plenty of people who disagree with me about that, but I just feel like the way you're gonna probably break in is not with just a good script. It's gonna be with moving here and getting some job at some production company or a movie studio, and like me, someone saying to you, knowing you're a writer, saying, "Hey, do you have something I could read?" And being ready to hand them a script 5 minutes later, or email them a script, 5 minutes later, because that will close very quickly. So you have to have writing samples ready to go. That's why you got to finish your scripts. Because when someone asks, you got to be ready to send it to. The people who are going to ask who matter are mostly in LA.
Yeah, that's very true. I wanted to write movies when I was younger, and I would like write up these like completely like copies of like my favorite TV shows. And then my dad would like send it to you, and you would format it as like a script for me.
Remember?
And I just thought that was so like, I was so excited about that when I was younger. So I just wanted to thank you for doing that.
Well, I hope now you have screenwriting software you can use.
I
do.
I don't. I'm not much of a screenwriter now. Now I'm more like chapter book, but
Fiction. You're writing fiction?
yeah, fiction.
Yeah, you two, you both write fiction mostly?
Yeah.
I did some screenwriting, but I don't know if it's my thing.
Well, if you want to be, if your goal isn't TV or screenwriting, you don't need to move to LA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Mostly New York, I feel like, is the thing for.
Yeah, that's where we're gonna go.
That's
probably.
where I'll probably move to after Boston. But
Can't beat it. Can't beat New York. Be great. Did you guys see American Fiction?
no,
not
I
yet,
need
but
to.
it was filmed, like parts of it were filmed in Boston.
Yeah.
And it takes place in Boston, and it's about a novelist who teaches at a college in California somewhere, and he goes back to Boston where he's from, and where his book agent is also, which is weird, but it's a pretty good movie.
We're kind of wrapping things up now, so our last question is like, what do you have going on right now? What are you working on that you can tell us about? If there's anything coming out that we should keep our ears out for.
We forgot to talk about Journey 3. We have to talk about that.
Well, I'll answer both of those. Journey 3, we wrote Journey 3. Before Journey 2 even came out, they hired us to write Journey 3. Journey 3, as I think you know, is from the Earth to the Moon, as it is teased at the end of Journey 2.
Yes.
And Dwayne and Josh and a new female go to in our version, go to one of the moons of Saturn or Jupiter, Enceladus. They go to Enceladus for reasons I cannot remember at the moment. But they go there and they land there, and I think they quickly realize that you can breathe the air there. And so they take off their helmets because, as you're writing these things, you realize, oh my God, we're going to have them on another planet. They can't be wearing helmets the whole time. And you don't want them like underground where it's breathable air. And it's the Journey franchise. So you can just like have some science, make it sound sciencey, why they can breathe the air, and just have them breathe the air. Who cares? But there's also there was a stowaway little alien creature that comes with them on this adventure. And they have to get to when they land, I think their spaceship gets destroyed and they have to get to the other side of the moon to try to get off the moon, Enceladus. I don't remember a lot about it, but so we wrote that, and the studio was really excited about it, and they said, okay, we're going to go make it. And the same guy who directed Journey 2, Brad Payton, was going to direct it, and Dwayne decided he didn't want to do it. So that was it. And so the studio then for years would bring in different writers to rewrite it to try to make it something Dwayne wanted to do. And Dwayne just I just don't want to do it. I think, he didn't tell me this. So, but I know that I'm pretty sure that the holdup was they could not get Dwayne to want to do it. And I think the reason is, if Dwayne were here, he might disagree, but I think the reason is that he felt like he was kind of done doing little kid movies. I know he did Moana and stuff, but he had just done before that Tooth Fairy, and then he did Journey 2. He had done kid movies, and then he did Fast Five. The Fast Five was a big move for him, where he became an action star in cool PG-13 action movies. Yeah. And so I think he's I'm doing those kind of movies now. I don't want to go do another kids movie. That was it. So it's never been made. I know that I think that the studio would make it tomorrow if Dwayne agreed to do it.
Let's call him.
Let's call him.
Yeah. He doesn't want to do it. They're waiting for your draft. They're waiting for your guys' draft.
I agree. We had
He
so many
hasn't read our
ideas.
script yet.
No,
Yeah.
he doesn't know.
And that's right. Once he reads yours, he's in.
I remember we had the script for Journey 3 like on my dining room table for like a long time back when we lived in Syracuse. So that was like,
I'll send it to you if you want to read it.
I would actually love to. Yeah.
Again, all I have is our version. Like there are versions
For us. So.
That's the only version I'm interested in. But like
but we had fun writing it, and it was I remember there was a little bit of disagreement that some of the people involved wanted to make it older, wanted to age it up a little bit and make it a little more PG-13. And I remember the studio was like, nope, this is the Journey franchise is kids movies. Like we're going to keep it PG and it's going to be like broad humor and kid stuff. And so that's what it could have been that Dwayne didn't want to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember the movies being like the kind of movies that are fun for kids and adults. Like there's always like movies like Smurfs, and you're like, not for adults.
Right.
But this was like fun for like
The whole family.
the whole family.
Yeah.
So
And there aren't many movies. I mean, we still get calls from studios being like, we want to make movies like that again, but they don't. And the reason they don't is that, basically all movies are based on IP now. And as you notice, they're all Marvel or Star Wars or Minecraft, which is coming out, or Barbie or Oppenheimer or whatever. It's all based on something, and that doesn't mean it can't be for all ages. That's not the Marvel brand. That's not really the Star Wars. Mandalorian's kind of that. Mandalorian is a thing I would point to in recent years that seems to be like Journey 2 and other movies for truly for all ages. And I think that's part of its success.
yeah, that's very true.
So the other question was, what are we doing now? We are writing a movie. We had an idea for a movie, and we got John Cena and Jason Momoa.
I've heard about this. I think
You were just talking about how much you love
They
John
agreed.
Cena.
I love John
act,
Cena.
so,
Yeah.
We just turned in that script a couple weeks ago to the studio. I think they're trying to find a director. They're meeting with directors now for that. Whether or not that ends up getting made, I don't know. It's not up to us. It's up to the studio. But it's nice having those actors.
Yeah.
They're both great.
And John Cena was in Peacemaker, and the Suicide Squad, which your cousin James directed
Yes.
and was in charge of, and is now like super in charge of. But that like, so do you guys get to like, do you get to, I don't know, is it like a connection that way? Like you're like, oh, like I want to keep working with this like group of people, so like.
That one so the way the origin of that one was, there's a guy named Peter Safran who produced Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, but he also produced the Conjuring movies. He produced Aquaman. He's a big producer. And Brian and I have known him. He used to be our manager. We've known him. He was at my wedding. He was at my wedding with your dad. And we've known him forever. And he called us one day about a year and a half ago and said, because he had done Aquaman, so he knew Momoa, and he had done Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, so he knew Cena, and he said they want to do a movie together. So come up with an idea for those two guys.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. We came up with an idea for those two guys and then pitched it to him, and he's like, okay, let's go pitch it to the actors. So we got on a Zoom with Cena and Momoa and pitch it to them, and they're like, love it, let's do it. And then we get on a Zoom with Warner Brothers and pitch it to them, and they're like, love it, let's do it. So then we write it. We're also writing a TV pilot for Amazon that's a sort of half-hour espionage comedy thing.
Sounds sold. I'm there.
That was enough to get you? Wow. Okay.
I don't know. There's not enough spy media for me personally anymore.
Well, the Cena Momoa thing is also a spy thing.
Oh,
so.
thank God. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean,
We're kind of out of questions.
we're out of questions.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. This is very
Yeah.
exciting for me. I've never gotten to talk to you as an adult before.
I know.
Yeah.
The last time I saw you, you were probably like
12 or 13, I think. Yeah. I remember your backyard. So
Yeah.
in my backyard. Yes.
there was a trampoline. Maybe.
There is. It's still over there. Even though my kids are too old to use it, it's just rotting. We got to get rid of it.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you guys very much. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you
Have a
so
good
much.
rest of your day.
Yeah.
See you both. All right.
Bye.
Take care.
He's funny.
Yeah. Oh my god. Not calling me out the first.
That was
like,
so
5
funny.
minutes.
That was so funny.
It's like what?
Wait. No. So that was fun.
That was really fun. I feel like we learned so much about our favorite movie, Journey 2.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also feel like I got to know your family life a little bit more.
Yeah.
I was like,
No, like that, like there's like a picture of that guy on my fridge. Like that's bestie. That was cool. And like I said it in the thing, I've never spoken to him as an adult pursuing something sort of similar to him, so that was cool. But he really did play like a major part in my like childhood ambitions.
Yeah.
So it's very like
next time we interview you and you talk about your writing journey, he's gonna be in it. You're gonna be like, here's what I used to do. I used to write little scripts and then I used to send them over.
Yep, and I got really I was super into it, and it was mostly thanks to him, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And like I really never even really knew him that well. So
Well,
there's that. I also want to correct something. I think I called Brian his brother in the intro. They're cousins.
that's okay. We all make mistakes.
We all make mistakes.
Everybody has those days.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The Gunn family tree is
this
pretty
is
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. This is our last episode of the season.
Yeah.
But we'll be back for summer
We'll be back for summer.
with some more
some-
fun recaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know how it is. The usual.
The usual.
Thank you so much for listening or watching this episode of Childhood Trash. You can follow us at Childhood Trash Pod on Instagram or TikTok. You can follow Pia at Pia LaPlaca.
And you can follow Maggie at Maggie and Keating.
We'll see you this summer.
Yeah.
Bye.